You know what I did? I went to my anime list and looked for the worst anime I could find. And it wasn't easy because the site isn't made for that, but even with more anime coming in, it continues to be the worst ranked there, 2.21 stars. This doesn't mean the others are worse, but the notion they might have been placed on the list, yet no one thought it was worth it to comment or classify them, tells me they aren't good. Still, the difference is more than a star between this anime and the second lowest ranked one. And it's 5 positions below Boku no Pico. And I can't even say the Sky deserved these 2 stars. Tsui Sora is an OVA from 2002 based on a visual novel that starts with an effect dissolving my mouth into laughter. However, the problems with Termination Atmospheric aren't just that the quality is dated. The characters are out of model for no reason at least half the time. Here's how the characters walk. Eyes slide, mouths disappear, nothing is safe in Confine's cosmos. Wait, let me fix the still image for the animation. There. Tsui Sora is usually translated as Endsky, but we don't get an explanation for what this conclusion canopy is. I went and looked for what this kanji meant, and it's itself only translated as ending and end, but another kanji associated to it has the idea of finally, and yet another one has the idea of accomplish, attain, commit for Tsui, and consummate. I can't help but notice that everything that happens in this OVA can be described with these words. Even if in questionable manner, could this title be a pun? We're basically going to have someone who tries to accomplish something, while a lot of people are going to consummate, with a lot of quotes in most cases, and we'll have someone that in fact committed Tsui. Yep, this is your trigger warning. We'll have some physical violence, a lot of sex, and Tsui. This OVA isn't just bad for bad execution. The writing is horrendous. Oh, no, it's not possible! We're out of coffee. I'm gonna make more and I'll be back. We start with the girl I've just mentioned who has boobage and hips that challenge the wind. And you might think by her position that it's about to happen, but before that, she talks with poorly synced lips. The background changes, so it might just be in her mind, but it might also be a memory. No matter the case, she talks with a boy that says everything ends while she says life never ends. Talking about essence, metempsychosis. No, that's the one. And after seeing the two are reading the script with so little interest, to the point he thinks it's normal to point at her when he says she's wrong, as if he wasn't right beside her, well, maybe he wasn't. Finally, he says he'll show her the most sublime thing in the world and poorly animated sex. Probably because she seems to say she doesn't want it. I'm almost sure, but since everything is so poorly done, it is hard to say. The scream on the frozen face just jumps to a black screen, and then they're there without anyone trying to resist or force themselves. And he had normal eyes beforehand, but now he has no pupils. If that means he's possessed, he has powers, or they forgot to make his pupils, I don't know. They can't even put two similar nips on her. Whatever the case, this scene is terrible to watch, with her crying and the background music indicating it's something horrible. Though, if you forget for a moment how hateful this is, the images are grotesque repetitions that wouldn't work for anyone. Even if you wanted to fake there was a signed contract from earlier saying it was consensual. Is this meant to be sexy? Or this? It's so bad that it looks like it's a parody, but then at the end the quality improves just as much, so suddenly it looks serious, and therefore disgusting. And we're back to her now, with her eyes closed, saying she'll destroy this body for the motes of essence that are still in it, which will stop the end of the world the boy talked about. By the way, before and after, her skirt is being lifted by the wind, but it only shows the sky behind her. Not that I wanted there'd be more fan service here, but I'm almost sure this means she has a plastic weight like those dolls not meant to be stripped, and then she lets herself fall. Cuts to a a boy being woken up by his friend, who literally seemed to be wearing a smaller version of the same uniform the other girl had, but only down to her belly button, because going down as it does, her skirt stops at the hips. I know, my fellow connoisseur of hack, you might think it's just one of those where the girls simply don't cover themselves up, but right after she's kinda chibi with a regular uniform, and in the following one, the skirt is even longer. Apparently, it's just incompetence. While she seems to chew bubblegum and the two walk in exact profile, making his arm look like a turkey leg sticking out, he talks about being man's nature. No, it isn't. For us to see them from exactly the front, where she looks better, but he might be 10 years older after getting more muscular, and she says he doesn't understand her feelings. He didn't hear, so we keep the stupid teen romance idea, but that's interrupted by melting cars? Like, the ambulance is not that bad. I think I wouldn't notice there's no space for those wheels to go round and round.
All the way to school.
All through the town.
Them shock absorbers ain't working right. But the police car looks like it was out on the sun for too long. The headlights are different from each other. The floor is so low it looks like it's made for racing. And why are the mirrors in the middle of the hood? Or did the car just grow antennae?
These people need to think we're aliens. What?
They decide to go see and run so fast they show up in a cafe, where she cries so much, the background shakes. We just see the two hearing voices off screen, so they don't have to be animated, talking about how the girl didn't leave a letter, so it probably wasn't a Tsui, or that she was popular, so it might have been a jealous lover, until the girl, with a face too small for the body she has here, falls crying on the table, cutting to atop the school while they announce an assembly, fading to the guy atop the building after that. Or a JPEG of the guy. He talks to a JPEG of her, with gigantic shoulders again. How inflation was Great Titan, saying she must feel bad and explaining the whole situation as if the audience were imbeciles, but she says she's okay and is going to her after-class club to sweat it out before she loses steam, and he stays there waiting so they can go home together. Poorly animated scene of her body undressing under her petrified face. Of course I can't show you the deformities, and I'd have such sights to show you, but I can say there's a mate looking with such glistening eyes that the reflex is shaking as if she were on an earthquake. And then we see the quake in her imagination, which I can also not show, but I can say this, she still has a petrified face. Oh, and mid-scene she's canine, so to speak, only she isn't imagining something about Senpai's body. Senpai? Yeah, she's probably her senpai. No, it's poorly censored and they don't say she got anything, but in the middle of the Atari graphics, you can see she's wearing a belt. She says to her kohai to take her head out of the clouds of imaginary steam and go change. And then we go back upstairs to see a girl walk on Space Harrier's floor. This girl with pink short hair talks to the protagonist, mentions Stop Space out of nowhere, and then talks about our antagonist having talked to the girl from the start and being obsessed with some weird idea, on top of sometimes having frightening eyes. Cut to him waiting after school and them going home with some of the ugliest distortions so far. He starts walking as if he's going to a fight or having fought her, who's sad about it. And then he has such a smaller head than he should, but that doesn't even compare to her face shrinking on that body. He apologizes for the morning thing, she says she'll forgive him if he buys her a burger, and since he sees she's holding her sadness, he says he'll buy her a combo, a Maku Sumaku to make animated. Then again, they can't make anything animated, and she says she loves him. Cut to the next day, the kohai disappeared, we immediately see her captured, using the same deformed uniform the main girl had on, and this image seems to be the attitude for anything that was supposed to be sex. Clothes don't need to make sense, just vag and boobs. And now that I finished those, I'll just put the face because I have to. Oh, and she needs to have arms, right? The way she's deformed, she looks like a transformer becoming a jet. Actually, I think this works much better. Well, I gotta make money, don't I? Our villain is forcing two girls to 34.5 each, whipping one when she stops, and then he goes on to the kohai. And if for any reason someone could still say the other scene could have been consensual, here there are no doubts. Protagonist wakes up, asking himself why his co-protagonist didn't come to wake him up, but discovers she got a call from the kohai and went missing. Damn, even my audio quality is better than this, I hope. And then he runs away slowly, with at least one extra step between the ones the animation has. He finds the pink-haired girl, asks what the villain is, after having left it aside when she was talking earlier. I guess he doesn't care about extras. He explains that his non-girlfriend was the one who disappeared this time, while his eye is almost falling forward. She says he must be in a pool. Hey, do you like my ventriloquism? Hi, I'm one. What happened to your eye? She explains the villain used an empty pool to go into a drainage pipe and must be there now. Our protagonist tells her to explain to the police, and he turns around and walks, though it clearly was supposed to be him running. In his hideout, he laughs while the kohai, with the poorly done eyes from the villain, is swirling the main girl in a manner invisible on YouTube. I can only say there's a moment where the kohai is going to kiss her, and it cuts immediately to her using her tongue lower, almost as if the director said, "What do you think you're doing? Nip!" The villain, even paler, almost as if he had been covered in bleach, goes on to her, saying no one is coming to save her, which means the unmovable head of the protagonist is there to scream at him. Poorly animated punch. Badly animated man must be his hero. Like, I know that anime characters look like they have no noses sometimes, but he was not supposed to be Krillin's cousin. On the floor, the villain says he did what he did because he can see shut heaven.
見えないのか。ほら、そこまで近づいている対の空が。
言われてるよ、石ちゃん。お構いなく。
The protagonist says he's crazy, and the girl from the start comes back, saying that the Finnish infinity is as always was. The universe has no beginning or end, and he can't accept that, while he goes side to side on his green screen. Girl disappears, fade to white, they're in a room, and Cardcaptor Sakura's cousin decides to reward him, and it's exactly what you must be thinking. Finishing on them laying together, and her saying she wants to do it again. So, what is Clothes Celestial? Well, I'm not going to play the games, but according to VNDB, the game is from 1999, which might explain the everything ends ideas. After all, we also celebrated the end of the century twice in those years. You can see there are more characters, so maybe the story isn't as bad, but considering we have Rip here, I imagine there must be some there too. I had also seen that a 10th anniversary edition was published 20 years later. If I had to guess, I'd say that the Ultimate Universe must be just nihilism, with a touch of mysticism around it. Here, we just have a villain that seems to think the world will end, but we have no reasons for that. If it weren't for the lackluster eyes, we'd not even have a reason to think it isn't just an excuse. Then our protagonist comes, punches, and a spirit shows up to say, "It's all good." There are some sirens by the end, but she disappears. If he had run, he could have continued and done worse. Or he could have struck back. No, he says, "The world is going to end." No, it's not. Oh my god, it's not? Besides, this kinda paints the whole abuse as not being a problem, which is a lie, and the protagonist girl being saved before the villain forcing himself onto her kinda sounds like that puritanical idea of she can still be a good girl because nothing that bad happened to her. But she was abused before, just not by the guy. On top of that, a character takes her own life, and she's shown as being correct in doing that. How in the hell did they think this would work? End of the day, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen, and it deserves to be the worst OVA on the list. And the chance of those other ones being worse still frightens me. Well, she seems to chew, but... Chew, yeah.